cultural center. We have the bookstore here. Underneath we have a little space for workshops for children. We have an art gallery, and we have a projection room. What we've tried to do in this bookstore was not to be everything for everyone. There are 3 categories of books which happen to be the most sold in the country that we do not carry: religion, politics, and personal development, whatever that is. So the presentation today and the talk today is, very much in line with some of the things that we like to promote. We're really into environmental studies, ecology. We're into cookbooks. We're into, of course, literature, poetry, and things that can get our mind out of these very turbulent times and all the anxiety that some people feel. So I hope that we'll travel with our guests today, and Marwa will introduce them. Thank you for being here.
Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I would like to thank Lola, Danny, and John for coming all the way from England for us today. I would like to start by giving a very brief introduction of all 3 of them and of the presentation tonight. So I would like you all to join us tonight and join the authors of Wild Guide Morocco for engaging stories of wild swimming, rooftop visitors, desert adventures, and slow travel from their 5-month campervan journey around Morocco. Lola Culsán, John Wheeler, and Danny Wheeler are London-based travel writers and wild swimmers, known for their immersive adventures and off-the-beaten-path discoveries. Authors of Wild Swim in Spain, Hidden Beaches Spain, Outdoor Swim in London, and now Wild Guide Morocco, that was released in March 2025. They spent 5 months exploring Morocco by campervan, uncovering hidden waterfalls, desert oases, remote mountain villages, and stylish hotels and riads. Lola is a half Spanish writer and a former stand-up comic. John is a photographer, travel writer, and a lifelong wild swimmer. Their son Danny is a linguist and a full-time travel journalist. Together they share a passion for freedom, nature, and meaningful travel. So these are the 3 authors that are tonight to together we can discover and explore Wild Guide Morocco. I would like you all to thank them for coming and give them a round of applause.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Lola.
So, as Marwa said, I am Lola Culsán. I'm a teacher, I'm half Spanish. In a former life I was a stand-up comedian, which is a lot harder than doing this, I have to say. So in the past, as Marwa said, we've written, our first book was Wild Swim in Spain and then Hidden Beaches Spain. When we were writing Hidden Beaches Spain, we stopped for the winter in the south of Spain, and every day we looked over the water at Morocco. Well, depending if the wind was poniente or levante, sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. And we just kind of looked over and we're like, Morocco. John actually came to Morocco in the 80s. It was quite a different place then, I think.
I was a different person.
He had quite a bit of a scary time. So we came over just for Christmas to kind of get away from Christmas, really. And we really liked what we saw, and that was the birth of Wild Guide Morocco. Are you clicking the program? So these are our other books. They're a little bit skinny, and sometimes you come up, oh god, that's skinny. You can go on to the next one, I think. So John and I wrote the previous books together, and then we recruited young Danny.
Hi. Not so young anymore.
Not so young anymore.
I'm getting old, I'm 26.
He was working in an office and quite unhappy, and we said, come, you're 25, you're 25, then we said, you can leave this job, you haven't got any responsibilities at the moment, they will come. But meanwhile, come and ride like a go Morocco with us.
And look how happy my face is there. And yeah, it was a no-brainer. Come and travel Morocco or sit in an office in London. And by traveling around Morocco, I traveled by hitchhiking. These guys traveled by campervan. I traveled around Morocco with nothing but a rucksack and my phone, traveling in shared taxis, buses, and sometimes walking very long distances, and a couple of dodgy motorbikes, which was fun. And together we've created a guide that reflects not only Morocco's physical beauty, but its cultural richness and human spirit. This is not a book written from behind a desk. Some people, I won't name names, their travel books are exclusively desk research. We feel that's cheating. I hope you agree. We visited every single location we recommended, and we hope that comes out in the personal, practical, and respectful guide that we've tried to create, that we think reflects the Morocco that we experience, one that's generous, diverse, and really full of wonder. And to try and understand a little bit more about Morocco before we came for our big adventure, we read a lot of Moroccan literature, and people writing about Morocco. Mohammed Shukri, Lola Culsán, Paul Bowles, Tahir Shah, and more.
There's a few kind of more political ones as well. When we began researching, we found that a lot of the most of the guidebooks really cover the same kind of 5 places. It's a very well-known cover. And we wanted to go a bit deeper, and we felt one of the important things for that was language. I spent a year learning Indonesia. I didn't get massively far, but I can say, my name, how are you, all these. I can say enough that people smile, and for me, language is about respect. Making an effort. Whenever I go to a country, I try to learn the language, and I thought, why I couldn't write a book about Morocco without at least learning a bit of Tunisian. We both speak French, but we felt that French is the language of the conqueror, and we didn't want to just come from speaking that language. Now, I'm 68 years old. I didn't get very far. I can't discuss philosophy, but enough to open up, to people to say, wow, these people have actually made an effort. And in one little small village, I went out and had a chat with people, and I did a bit of dancing, and I ended up being the guest of honour at the wedding that was going on. We also made a point in our book of referring to the Amazigh people rather than Berber, because we understand that Berber is a name that was given and is not a very polite name to call people. And I learned 2 words of Tashahid, Tanbirt, and Tininsiwi. I just like Tininsiwi. I love it. And people, if people were surprised and happily surprised when I could speak to them in Indonesia, a few words, they absolutely were not bowled over by the fact that I could say Tanbirt. They were like, nobody ever does that, especially not white people.
On the other hand, I can discuss philosophy in Arabic. I spent 4 years studying Arabic University. I lived for a year in Jordan. So anyone here not understand English, I can do this in Arabic if we need to. So I speak a mix of Fusha and Jordanian dialect, Hamiya.
That's why we created him.
Yeah. And I was predominantly in the rural areas, in cabs with 10 Moroccans and me, and I could hear people whispering, and I was and in Indonesia they didn't like to understand, what is this white boy doing here? And obviously didn't ask me directly, it had been very rude, but then when I responded to them in Arabic, that curiosity turned into surprise and shock. And it was, I think, delight. I was on the phone to people's brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, wives. It was a lovely experience, and given that I was hitchhiking, I really wanted to not just travel over a place, but travel through it. And I think sometimes being in a car, being on a tour or on a bus, you can be disconnected from the place you're traveling. And I wanted to talk to people. And hitchhiking plus Arabic meant I got all the gossip. Who was, whose land had been nicked in the local village, who was sleeping with who. There was a couple of those, but I won't name names in case they were listening. And they gave me advice on places to visit, jokes, and it really opened up a level of cultural connection that I wouldn't have had if A wasn't hitchhiking and B didn't speak the language. And we hope that we've transferred that into our guide.
So this book isn't just for people visiting Morocco, it is also for Moroccans, because so often in our own country we don't go and visit the amazing places, especially places that are off the beaten track. So road signs and directions are quite interesting in Morocco sometimes. And Google Maps, the Google Map van has not been to Morocco, guarantee you that. So in our guide we've provided very, very clear and specific instructions, including GPS, what kind of road it is, because we had a few experiences. We drove along one mountain. We got a 6-metre campervan, and we drove along this very narrow mountain road only to hit a blockage in the road, and I had to reverse 1.5 miles. That's 2 kilometres in Europe, and I think we use kilometres in it anyway. 2 kilometres back, with John walking along the side of the road to make sure I didn't go over the edge until I could get to a point where I could do like a 23-point turn.
I was really glad I wasn't there.
we didn't include that beach in the book. But that's what we mean. We had that every time something went wrong. We just say, well, we had this experience so that our readers don't have to. So we're very clear on the place, on how to get to the places and what kind of road you're going to face when you go there.
And what we really hope to offer with this book is something that's not just your everyday guidebook. It's something meaningful to travellers from abroad and to Moroccans who want to explore their own country. We're promoting sustainable, responsible tourism. The places that we've included here, also not just natural places to visit, also historical sites, but also accommodation, campsites, riad, local family homestay. And what we've not done is we've tried not to include as much as possible foreign hotels. We want people to come here and travel and invest money in the local community, and also that goes to protect local environments and also natural environments.
Yeah, one of the things we also looked at when we were looking at accommodation was how eco-friendly they were. So that's we're not
putting the Movenpick and the Hilton, and we're not recommending those places. We're recommending a homestay, which one of my favourite homestays was one in a village called Timsky Uftas. Anyone heard of Timsky Uftas?
No,
Any Moroccans heard of Timsky Uftas? On the Atlantic coast, down near Agadir, south. Uftas. Anyway, no one's heard of it. Wicked place. This man, he built this homestay literally from the stones on the beach below. That's the kind of place we recommend. And we really want people to go out and explore Morocco in a place that, in a way that people haven't done before. We hope to inspire people to do that with confidence and curiosity, and with a good book to help them do it.
So obviously lots of visitors know about Jamal, but these we try to include. Not that many people have heard of the ancient stone circle of Missoura. People know maybe Volubilis, but they don't necessarily know Julia Valentina Manassa. We were astonished by the architecture and history that we found, and including like the Agadirs, which we've never even heard of before we arrived in Morocco. Yes, the beauty of the dunes is world famous, but you also have the stone arch at the Gzira, and also the crystalline pools of some of the amazing villages like and the extraordinary landscapes which are protected by national parks, because there's huge national parks in Morocco, which again lots of people don't know about.
And then also mountaintop lakes like Ifni, and everyone goes to those waterfalls, but everyone stays at the first one. But there is so much more beyond the natural pools and caves you go further in. And this is more than just a list of places to go to. It's a record of our journey, how we travel, who we met, what we learned along that way, and that's what we want to give to people who are travelling in Morocco. And we're off, as we mentioned before about the roads, there is clear advice on whether these hikes can be done solo or whether you need to have a local guide. You also discover remote ruins that some so hidden and lost to history they don't even appear on Google Maps. And also accommodation for all budget levels that, like I said before, support local families, not just foreign investment.
So our book is called The Wild Guide, so let's have a look at some wild trips. This is the view from the top of the Tizzy and Tess Path, which is one of those roads that starts off beautiful and paved and wide and just gets narrower and narrower and narrower and more scary as you get to the top. And we ended up staying at the top because the sun went down and I saw a hotel and I said, we're going to stop here because I don't know what's around that corner. But the other side, flip side of that was we woke up to this incredible sunrise in the morning. So it is like entering a different world, driving in the Moroccan mountains. Every turn is like a new vista from the Rift Mountains to the Anti-Atlas. You do kind of take your life a little bit into your hands. Sometimes you have to drive very slowly, but it's always worth it at the end.
And speaking of driving very slowly, these are the Cisterine vents. Anyone driven on these? 1, 2.
Not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, you wanna be nice and calm when you drive on this road. I wasn't driving; I was hitchhiking, so I got to sit in the cafe, which is basically where I am now, and watch, which is fun. Because you see trucks and campervans and cars trying to do a dance around each other whilst laden with, half a mountain. Yeah, very, very fun to watch, not so fun to do. And the next up is...
So, yeah, everyone goes to Chefchaouen. That's like the famous place everyone goes to. But actually what's really interesting is the hikes and the beautiful mountain trails that you can find. This is Oued El Canal. That's me with my little rucksack and hat there. This is just one of the most incredible places, and it's, again, not necessarily on most tourist trails. And, I showed this to people in England and they can't believe it's Morocco. It's incredible.
Speaking of incredible places, this is the Monkey Fingers. This is Dada's Gorge.
Danny took that photo. I just think this is my favourite photo in the whole book.
Yeah, the Monkey Fingers are waving at you from the river. Now, my favourite story about the Todra and Dada's Gorge. The Todra Gorge is more famous, but they have a rivalry about which is the more beautiful. And they have different hotels that post different pictures. And when I was there, they said, in Todra Gorge, they said, people at Dada's Gorge, they take pictures of our gorge and they put it up as their gorge. No, that's our gorge. And I just got to sit and listen to it and try a bit Arabic about stealing a verse, which I very much enjoyed. And it's, look at this place. It's very hard not to fall in love. And the thing is, places like this aren't on a lot of people's itinerary. And this is what we want to show, that there is so much more to Morocco than what the normal tour itineraries have. There's more than Marrakesh. It's lovely, but there's more than Marrakesh is known for that. Sahara is amazing, but there is so much more. It's diverse. It's a huge country. It's 500,000 square kilometers. It's hard to do all of it in a week.
But yeah, that's the worst thing. Oh, I've done Morocco. Oh, right. How long were you there? 2 weeks? That must have been quick.
Any surfers? Want to be surfers? One surfer? Yeah. We have included, so I followed Morocco's unofficial surfers trail from Agadir up to Essaouira and Casablanca with thousands of other salty travellers, and I recorded some of the most secluded and best surf locations on the Atlantic. Places to go where there's not 1,000 people trying to steal your break.
And also, in contrast to traditional guidebooks, we went to the Mediterranean coast. The Mediterranean coastline between Al Hoceima and the Nador headland, which one we met a Moroccan campervan. He described it as the forgotten coastline. It's a treasure trove for the adventurous. Isolated coves like Istania, and towering cliffs, viewpoints look out over the Mediterranean. It was just like beautiful cove after beautiful cove after beautiful cove. And the N16, and an amazing coast road, the N16 coast road, which was built about 10 years ago, and it's actually one of the good roads. And you can go up into goes up into Mist Mountains and down by the side of the beaches. And tourist development really hasn't followed on the heels up there. We found like 2 or 3 hotels and a couple of campsites. So if you're looking for the road less travelled, I recommend the Mediterranean coast, definitely. Obviously we couldn't ignore the desert. You can't come to Morocco and ignore the desert. And it was actually one of the highlights of our journey. We followed the path of the silks and the precious gems over high mountains and dramatic backdrops. One of the most amazing things we did was swim in a river in the desert, which is like swimming in a river in the desert. That blew my mind. And 2 key regions we recommend, even for those who call Morocco home, is Mazouga, home to obviously the iconic cherry dunes, which are just huge golden waves of sand, 150 metres high. John had a bit of a surreal experience. Was it in Cherry where you had that experience? Chicago. Do you want to tell that experience?
My mum nearly died in late 2023. I went to the top of this sand dune, to notice it at the top. As anyone knows, what type of sand dune, you've got to dig the feet and keep going. And then I got to the top and just, I just had my mum's voice crystal clear, like FM radio. And I just had to lie down and we just talked. I think I finally fell asleep and woke up and missed the sunset. So that was my experience.
But we tried to go beyond the Sahara is beautiful, there is no question about it. But we tried to go beyond that and celebrate and engage the culture and community of those who live there. In fact, we've tried to do that throughout the book, not just look at how beautiful things are, but engage with culture. When we open each chapter with a line or 2 of poetry, either by Moroccan poets or those inspired by the land. And I got that job, which is great, I'm also a poet, so I got to research Moroccan poetry for 3 weeks. Wicked. This is one of my favourite lines. I'm going to read it in Arabic first. Please correct my pronunciation if I'm wrong. بلادي كسيدة مكتوبة بالألوان الشمس وظلال الجبال. And for those who don't speak Arabic, that is, my country is a poem written in the colours of the sun and the shadows of the mountains. That is by Mohammed Benis from The Silence of the Body. And in the course of our travels, we weren't just looking for beautiful places. We looked for local museums, gardens, galleries, bookshops across the country, highlighting places that offer visitors a deeper understanding of not just what Moroccan landscapes look like, but of the people who live there. And for example, about 4 miles from Mazouga, where that last picture was shot, is the village of Khamlia. Anyone know Khamlia? So Khamlia is also known as the southern gateway to the Sahara, and the small community is home to Nawa musicians who had their residence at Dar Nawa. And originally the Nawa people migrated to Khamlia in the 15th century from Sudan, Mali and Niger, and now it's become Moroccan famous and globally famous. Their music symbolises freedom from slavery. And just across the road you have this cultural gem. It's called Chez des Artistes, opened by Lassen Mahmoudi and his wife Joanna. And they create art from recycled materials left on the roadside. Stars are collected with a replica 1950s film camera made from a jerry can and an abstract piece on water conservation made from discarded pipes and taps. They also work with local poetry groups and design covers for anthologies and translate them into Arabic and French.
We also discovered loads of just tiny little museums across Morocco, like this is the Kasbah Caravanserai in Tigmir. It was once a fortified inn on a key Saharan trade crossroads. It's now transformed into this amazing museum. It's packed full of artifacts from the history of the Sahrawi tribes. Within the walls you can find traditional clothes, tools, utensils, things for camel care, and also an amazing water timer. That was incredible. We have sand timers, they have water timers. You don't really see these outside the desert. And it's brought to life with vivid explanations by the flamboyant descendant of the family who built the house, and he offers you explanations, and of course, minting.
Now, in the northernmost region, far from the south, is the Villa Harris Art Museum in Tangier. This was constructed in the late 19th century by British journalist Walter Burton Harris. Following decades of neglect, it was turned into a casino and then a Club Med resort. But now, I think a much better purpose is a museum, and has these beautiful archways and these calligraphic designs, and features art from artists painting in Morocco and Moroccan artists at the forefront of the display, including Mohammed Ben Ali al-Bab.
And in contrast, we also found Le Savoir Faire. This is a tiny art gallery by the side of the road in the Arica Valley on the way to Sesti Fatma. The sculptor Abdelhak El-Rouassi, if I pronounced that properly, set up a public workshop here in order to be closer to the community that he writes about. His sculptures are also, they're made from reclaimed metal. They are incredible. You can actually find them in Saatchi's website, or you can go and meet the artist. We went and met him and had coffee with him.
Didn't he design a piece for a Saudi? Yeah.
I think he did, yeah. One large piece was that, which I really liked. It was a massive fish with plastic in its belly. So it was a metal fish with plastic in its belly. I actually was so inspired that I bought a small piece of an old man carrying a young boy on his back, which just felt to me really spoke of the kindness and generosity of Moroccan people. So the rich history of Morocco was also, a focus for our book. And in the largely forgotten city of Mamoucha, in the Atlas Mountains, triage from Fez, we discovered the Espace de la Mémoire Historique de la Résistance et de la Libération, which is a small museum dedicated to the resistance against the French occupation. And in the gardens, there's this lorry which was used to fight against the French, who locked away their opponents in the prison opposite the administrative building. This now houses exhibits, including photos of Moroccan sultans and documents detailing resistance, and tools such as homemade bullets and bombs and things like that are used in the resistance.
Now, Morocco's more ancient past. A lot of what we discovered didn't come from books or maps or guidebooks, but by the people we spoke to. Even at one point, we were in the editorial process for our book, and they were checking all of the places we recommended, and our editor said, "Excuse me, this place doesn't exist." I said, "Excuse me, it doesn't exist." I was like, "Why is that?" He said, "It's not Google Maps." I have photos, we have coordinates, they exist, I was there, I spoke to the person. But that's the thing. Morocco is a country you have, it's not all of it, unfortunately, not all of it is recorded. So it's a country that, needs more of a spotlight, which is what we hope to do, but also it is a country you can feel and experience. And, local guardians became an essential part of our journey. They gave us oral histories, they really hold the cultural history of Morocco and these places in their heads, and it was such an important resource for us to be able to tell these stories. And when Google Maps did try to help, it sometimes sent us the wrong way, and so we had to follow our own directions and also follow the guidance because they know best.
And sometimes in the book we've said that, we said please ignore Google Maps because it will send you to the wrong place.
And these are Agadir, these fortified hilltop granaries where families store grain, honey, important documents, keep them safe. Each one has its own architecture, regional style, and this one here is just a gorgeous photo which Dan took. So these are 3 levels which you can walk up to by the platform, and it's just incredible. And just for a bit of scale, the space between each of the steps outward is about the height of
Me.
about 5'4". Me, about a metre high. Not a metre high.
No, more than
Not that short, sorry.
168 probably. 168.
And this lack of historical record really continued on the coast as well. Like I mentioned before, Tennessee de Ustas, there was this lighthouse and a mosque next to it, which no one knew how old it was. Estimated between 600 to 800 years old. There's no record of it. Even the host of the homestay I mentioned earlier, he lived in that town all his life. He had no idea what it was called. And he said to me, I'll never forget it, it's so hard to find information on the history of this area. No one has written books about it. And that felt like a real vindication of our effort to, to tell the story.
So I just wanted to re-mention, I know I mentioned earlier about the Roman ruins, which again is something most people don't know about Morocco. But this one, this is Julia Valentina Banassa, which is in a tiny village. You turn up, I think there was a front entrance, but it was closed, but we went in through the back entrance. There was people cycling bikes, turkeys, there was donkeys chewing away. But one of the things that we want to do, because places like this are not preserved, I know that Volubilis is now preserved, but places like this are not, and they should be preserved, because they are, they're not just Morocco's history, but the world's history. And we want to shine a spotlight on places like this, and hopefully this will help to have these places preserved in the future generations. But one of the greatest highlights, I have to say, of our journey across Morocco was the kindness of the Moroccan people.
And we have so many stories about the kindness, but I think the scariest situation for me, which turned into one of the nicest, I was hiking down the coast of the around Agadir, and I got completely lost. I ran out of water. It was 12 in the afternoon. The sun was beating down, and it was May, so we all know what the sun is like in May at 12 o'clock. And I was a little bit desperate, and I kind of walked down onto this beach going, I need some water, I need to find someone to, a little shop, anything. And there were these two guys sitting in front of a hut that had been carved out of the stone. They took one look at me and went, right, you come in, let's sort you out. Gave me tagine, filled me up with water, sweets, posed for photos, we chatted, we had a great time, I read the book somewhere. And I think this is an experience that I experienced across Morocco. People genuinely want to help, but more than that, like the amount of invites I had to come and eat food, to eat food, to drink tea. If I accepted every invitation, I'd still, it'd be, as you're pointing out, I'd be the size of the house. I'd also still be here. I am still here, but I would never have left.
So this was an experience. We had a flat tire in this remote village in the middle of nowhere, no phone signal, no shops, no nothing. And we were just like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I spotted this guy with a phone, and I said, could you phone as a mechanic? Anyway, before I knew it, the entire male population of the village are around, lifting it up with stones, with whatever, equipment they could find. The guy said to me, look, you can lock up your van, go for a walk, we're going to sort this for you. They sorted it for us, and I said, thank you so much. They really got us out of trouble. I said, can I give you some money? He said, ce n'est pas pour l'argent, c'est du cœur. Not for money, it's from the heart. And this was not the only time this was said to me. And actually, he then, after that, he took us to the place we were looking for, these volcanic caves. And I was just saying to him, I've just been amazed, we come with our European cynicism. And it was a humbling experience for us. It changed us as people. And he said to us, and so I was commenting on this, and he said, we want to help you, you just have to trust us. And so that spirit of generosity was just a recurring thing on our travels.
Yeah, and I think we live in a time where Morocco and a lot of West Asia, as we're calling it now, not the Middle East, is demonized in a lot of Western media, and we hope in some small part that the stories that we tell can do something to redress that, because in my opinion, and most rational people's opinion, it's all nonsense. And we wanted to bring this talk to an end by reading the introduction.
Just the last paragraph of the introduction.
As you make your way through this magnificent land, especially its wilder regions, approach with an open heart. A wave, smile, a hand to the chest often brings a warm salam, and an invitation to share tea or a meal from a family. We encourage you to accept this heartfelt invitation, for they're strong, sweet mint tea, share a tissue or a biscuit, enjoy the slower and more convivial way of life. Embrace spontaneity, take chances on the unknown, and you'll create memories to cherish for a lifetime. We hope you enjoy our book.
Finally, I want to say thank you to everyone at Booklook who made this evening possible and helped everything run so smoothly. And thank you for coming, for your interest, for supporting this project. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Also, while Morocco is available for purchase, and we will sign it for you if you're interested. This is our contact info on the screen, our email and our Instagram. If you want to keep in contact, send us recommendations of new places to visit in Morocco, because as you can tell, we love Morocco and we're going to keep coming back. Anyone have any questions for us?
God, don't be scared.